But that will be our intro for After the Hype. So hi.
Oh, what in the hell? What in the fresh hell?
Oh boy, our intros are getting better and better every week. I should probably just go back to fuck yes at this point, but that's just too easy. So hi, welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, always Brian Dress. With me, as always, is CHEWIE Darso.
Hi.
And Jonathan Hardesty.
I'm here.
Yep. No, you're there. We've been over this.
I keep forgetting.
As far as we know,
Yeah.
John's on the toilet right now.
I mean, I hope not.
Well,
but then
that
again,
would be
if he
super
really
impressive.
needs to use the toilet, that'd be rude of me to hope not. So, you know,
Yeah.
do you, John. You do you.
You do, you do.
Just don't pull an Elvis on us, okay?
Oh God, don't be you if that's the you that you were going to do.
With your doo-doo.
Oh, people wanted to listen to an episode about Halloween.
Oh man,
Oops.
this like the milkshake
Poop
brings
rhyming.
all the listeners to the yard.
Oh God, we're off to a wonderful start.
I'm proud of myself.
This is why I say I want to stop recording episodes like this to
No.
avoid the tired loopiness that we get at the end of the day.
Our loopy
Oh.
selves are our best selves. What are you talking
Oh my
about?
God, no. We're gonna move on to where have you been doing? I am going to go first. I'm really torn between two movies, and since we're talking about a movie that's been, really widely covered, and I think we have a little bit more time up front, I'm going to talk about both of them really fast, unless you wanted to do more of the second one that I saw this week, talking really cryptically. I saw two movies in theaters. The second one was with you.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about that one?
Not really.
Great. Okay, so I'll talk about both the movies then. So I saw Child's Play and I saw Midsommar, which are two horror movies out right now. Midsommar's being touted as like the most violent, most scary, most crazy, most fucked up thing you'll ever possibly see, and I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was any of those things. I don't think it's even really a horror movie. I think it's kind of a trippy, not whodunit, but trippy like mystery thriller with some horror elements and a lot of horror like callbacks and references, which are really cool. But all in all, it's not really about the horror and the gore and that sort of stuff. That's just stuff that kind of happens to be in this movie. And that's really all I'm going to say about it, because I honestly think you should go in as blind as possible. Because it is a very, very well-made movie. And, set your calendars for about 6 months from now, because we will absolutely cover it in this podcast at some point or another. Because there's a lot to dive into and a lot to talk about. But not without spoiling.
And they totally bought out of Michael's floral department.
Yes, they did.
It sounded like there was also some issues with the trailer spoiling everything.
It's not that it spoils anything in the movie. It just really gives away...
It gave away a lot of... Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're going to say it better than I will.
Yeah, you didn't see the second trailer.
It's the only one I saw.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
The first trailer left a lot of questions, and then the second trailer had a lot of glimpses. And the combination of the questioning and then the glimpses just made it so that for at least people like me went, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
it's this kind of movie.
Yeah, so like when I saw the second trailer, ironically before Child's Play, which I'll talk about in a second, I told Chewie, I'm like, yeah, I saw the trailer, and she's like, yeah, it doesn't really give too much away. I'm like, I feel like it gave everything away.
Yeah, it gave away a little too much in the way that, at least for me, I was able to throw the pieces together fairly quickly, and then I wasn't really surprised by much.
Yeah, and I was kind of the same way. It's still an incredibly well-made movie, and I definitely think people should watch it, especially if you liked Hereditary. It's kind of an odd companion piece to Hereditary in a way, but I'll talk about that more in 6 months when we talk about the movie itself. So I'll spend another just 2 minutes, if that, talking about Child's Play. If you want to see Child's Play, if you have any interest in Child's Play, smash that 30 seconds advance button 2 times right now. Ready? Go. Okay, so if you haven't seen the trailer, if you have seen the trailer for Child's Play, you do not know that the whole thing is actually about just a malfunctioning doll. It is not about a demonically possessed doll. It's actually just a doll where some guy went, fuck my boss, and he took all the safety regulations off of the doll, and he's just a complete blank slate that could be imprinted on. And that's why he goes insane, is because of like all like the normal things in our society, and he gets too protective of Andy. And there's a lot of really kind of cool motivating things that got him to being the insane, crazy murder doll. The movie itself is okay. It's not bad. As the farther I get away from it, the more I like it. But I wish I had known that, because I went in expecting the old Child's Play that was crazy and demonic and had all these wild nuts things in it. And this one's more of just like a machine gone wrong, which is not a bad movie, and I really liked it. But now, just like Midsommar, I want to see again, just to kind of, now that I know what I'm sitting down for 100%, I want to see it with a clean slate.
Would you want to see a Ex Machina and Child's Play crossover?
I mean, I'll watch Ex Machina anything. So sure, it wouldn't work. It'd be a terrible movie, but I would definitely watch it.
What if she bought a Chucky when she left the commune or whatever?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. She needs a friend.
Yeah.
I still don't know how she's going to charge herself. It's not like she has solar panels. Whatever.
An interesting
John,
thought that just crossed my mind.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Before I jump to that, just an interesting thought that came across my mind. With the original Child's Play, it was all about like voodoo and voodoo magic. And there was a lot of that kind of magic element to even stuff like Candyman and things like that. And it seems like we've replaced that now with all our fear of technology, which is an interesting shift. We were very scared of dark magics, exotic magics, and now it's like our computers are going to kill us.
Yeah, we were right about half of those arguments, and it's the computers killing us. It's definitely going to be the thing that happens if our president doesn't do it first.
Yeah, no, I'm actually a lot more curious to see this new Child's Play because of what you told me about it than I was going into it being like, oh, it's just going to be a modern rehash of old voodoo magic does a body swap into a doll.
But we're past that 1 minute, so don't spoil anything else. In case those people actually did jump ahead, I don't want to spoil it.
Turns out Chucky is going to play Ariel. He really, really wanted to show off his singing skills. He's got the hair.
I mean, Mark Hamill can sing. What can I say?
Yeah.
John, what about you? Why don't you jump into what you've been doing?
On a completely different note from the two movies you just mentioned, I was playing Super Mario Maker 2, which came out a little bit ago. And I've been having a lot of fun with that. They did something different this time versus the previous version where they actually have a whole single-player campaign to get you used to kind of the creative ways that levels can be made, but to also kind of give you fun and challenging Mario levels. And it's actually been really fun. The premise is really silly for story mode. You essentially finished, renovating the princess's castle, and you have this dog comes by and hits the reset button and destroys the entire castle, so you have to rebuild it. And so you go through Mario Maker levels that are built by the Mario team. And they're making it using tools from this game. So you can turn around and take any of the levels you've done and apply those concepts to levels you make. It's really fun. And having it portable and on the go has been really cool.
Huh. You're the first person I actually know who's played the game. I've read a lot of like online people who are like, kind of expected something else from this, but so it doesn't sound too bad. I still don't own a Switch and don't know when I ever will.
And I mean, it's iterative from the first one, and obviously it's on the Switch, which is the console that everyone likes more than the Wii U. But it still does the Nintendo things that it's bad at multiplayer. That's been kind of a difficult thing to figure out, and you need codes and level codes and shit like that. So it's not perfect. We're never going to get to perfect, but as far as something that's funny, fun, and gives you just a look into game making in general and just puzzle making, I don't know. There's something fascinating about designing platforming levels and adding a puzzle element to them. Yeah, a lot of variety in Mario levels that I wasn't expecting.
Cool. Chewie, what about you?
Well, I finally finished watching all of Umbrella Academy.
Whoa.
But I won't go into that because spoilers, because I know you still have some interest in watching it.
I've already spoiled the whole show for myself, but yes. And I spoiled it by watching the show.
How they get to her thing, because I can't...
You don't want to spoil more than that.
No. Because, it gets to her thing. But it's how they get there. That's fun.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, once they stop focusing on her taking her pills, it's great. That's what was annoying.
When do they stop focusing on random choreographed dancing? Never.
There's only one other time they do a choreographed dance. And it ends up getting erased from the timeline. So
not
it's like
from my memory.
Yeah.
We get it, Umbrella Academy. You're cool. We got it.
Yeah, well...
Could you try a little harder, please?
I apologize. We had a major technical difficulty there. Chewie was in the middle of talking about Umbrella Academy. What were you saying? I apologize.
All right. Well, I can't really talk too much about Umbrella Academy because you still have interest in seeing it.
Right.
All I can say is, even though you know that Vanya gets to her little moment, the journey to her moment is pleasurable.
Fair
and
enough.
I am sorry there is at least one choreographed dance sequence in there.
Don't get me wrong. It's not that I hate choreographed dance sequences. I love dancing in movies. It's great.
Sure,
but
you
when
do.
you're trying to tell me constantly how cool you are, and that's all I get from that show. Look at how cool we are. We're gonna dance to Queen. Don't stop me now.
Actually, they weren't dancing during that moment. He was getting shot at.
I'm sorry. It's
I
just
think it was Whitney Houston they were dancing to.
at this point, if you put "Don't Stop Me Now" in your movie, I'm out.
Oh.
I'm out. If you've done it before now, we're okay. But it was right before Umbrella Academy that I'm like, I'm fucking done with this song in movies.
You know that at some point I'm going to record you doing something now, and I'm going to put that over what you're doing.
As long as it's not something if you take something I make and you put it in it, then we have a problem. Over what I'm doing, whatever. It's a great song.
Well, today I decided while I was doing laundry, I needed a good, easily enjoyed, doesn't need to be paid attention to movie, and I decided to go with National Treasure with Nicolas Cage.
I was going to say Adrian Brody for some reason. That's wrong.
Nope, he's not in that movie.
See, now that would be an interesting version of the movie.
Right?
I forgot his first name, Bean.
Sean?
Bean?
Sean Bean. I was going to say Michael?
No.
We call him Spoiler Man around these parts because he spoils every movie he's in by being in it.
Harvey Keitel is in it, and he plays a good guy.
He's played a good guy before.
Not very often. They're usually leaning towards bad guy or just straight up bad guy.
He was a good guy in Reservoir Dogs. He was the good guy of the bad guys.
Yeah. He was a bad guy, but he wasn't that bad of a guy.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into that good guy defense.
He's a good guy.
You don't understand. You didn't mean it.
Fucking kill me.
And John Voight plays the dad. I'm sure John Voight just loved going through that period where he was the dad in all these action movies.
That'd be better than when he was the guy eaten by a snake.
Yeah, where he was also playing a bad guy.
Yeah.
Wait, so this connects John Voight to Tomb Raider. So he was like going around being dads to different families.
Oh my god, what if... No, I'm not going to go down that train of thought about him having more than one family and just keeps training his kids to be treasure seekers.
If he gets cast as the old guy in fucking Uncharted, it's like, dude,
how many wives did you have? Why are you ruining all your kids' lives?
See, he would take off his glasses and go, not enough.
But even so, I really enjoyed that movie when I was younger. Like, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then on this rewatch, it got killed for me when the female lead, I don't remember her name, you said you were really into her.
Oh yeah, Diane Kruger.
Yeah. Gets in their van, and then Nicolas Cage just starts gaslighting the shit out of her. He's like, shut up. I'm not going to listen to you if you keep yelling. See, you're yelling again. Shush. And then at one point she gets out with the Declaration of Independence, and he goes, oh yeah, fine, go, take it, shoo, get out of here, shoo. And I'm like, oh my god, you are so condescending, you are such a prick, how are you the hero of this movie? And that kind of just ruined I didn't really pay that much attention after that.
I think you ran into trouble when you tried to pay attention to National Treasure.
Yeah.
I think you were already doomed.
I just remembered it being a pleasurable experience, and
well, nostalgia is truly a cruel mistress.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that brings us right into today's movie.
Yeah.
Halloween. Halloween. It's going to do this for the next half hour. Enjoy your ride to work. Hall & Oates?
Hallowed Wings.
Oh, this is done. Oh my god. I was kidding. So this is for the next half hour.
Yeah, don't do a bit and expect us not to commit.
Dissect the linguistics of this word.
No, let's just keep doing it just so those people are like, that's a joke. Oh God, they actually did it. Like the two people who didn't turn off. No, we're not doing that. I promise. Halloween. Directed by David Gordon Green, written by him and fucking Kenny Powers of all people. Danny McBride, for those who don't know.
Is that his real name or what?
Kenny Powers is the character he plays on Eastbound and Down.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is also a show by Danny McBride. David Gordon Green. So these two have worked together. They have a history, and they figured, why not do a sequel to fucking Halloween? You know, the horror movie that has no sequels. And what are we going to call this sequel?
No sequels at all.
Halloween.
I love how they picture this. Yeah, let's call the sequel to Halloween.
It's gotta be so confusing at like the library.
Oh my God! I mean, that's why even on our episode title it says Halloween in parentheses 2018, because that's exactly what everybody wants these movies. You know, I'm not going to get hung up on the title for too long. I just think it's stupid, and I'm also not a big fan of the sequel that just negates everything that came before it. I know it's a, I guess, clever way to make the sequel you always wanted to see when you didn't get to see it, but it also just kind of negates a lot of fandom and whatnot. I'm not a huge fan.
What do you mean? We're going to negate all of Terminator? Or we're going to negate X-Men? Or are we going to negate Star Wars?
The list goes on and on. So this movie takes place some 40 years after some 40 years after the original Halloween, and it negates fucking everything that came after that one. So Halloween 2 on do not exist in this world. I'm just doing a little breakdown for us. And this one takes place as if he went to jail, went to a mental institution, and spent the rest of his 40 years there until he gets broken out. We're not entirely sure how, but we're guessing somebody helped him break out. He goes on a killing rampage. He goes back after Laurie because for some reason he's really fixated on Laurie. It's a question they don't ever feel the need to answer, which I'm kind of fine with. I'm kind of not. We'll get there. And the long and the short of it is that the generational horror effects of Laurie being so traumatized, having her friends murdered, attempted to be murdered herself, has just rippled through her family, both her daughter and her granddaughter, and they're all dealing with it in their own ways. And nothing is worse than having a lifelong fear totally come true and have to deal with it, which is sort of validating and sort of like condemning to her daughter. And there's a lot of layers in this thing, and that's kind of why I was very excited to talk about it back in the previous, I think, 2 episodes where I said this one's coming up and I love it. But really quick around the table, what do you guys think? You guys fans of this one? Yes, no, yay, maybe?
I was a bit surprised by this one, actually. I was kind of expecting it to be not nearly as thought out or thoughtful, or at least as introspect, or like I didn't think it would be as much of a study into just PTSD or like dealing with this, like the ramifications of his attack from the previous movie. I didn't really know what to expect, honestly, going into this, because I didn't know that it was ditching the rest of the sequels or anything like that. Just like, yeah, I was really surprised, and I actually kind of enjoyed that it went to a more deeper place.
Yeah. Chewie, what about you?
I had ups and downs with it.
Yeah.
I really did like the personification of the different characters, except for the Doctor. The Doctor is a character in horror films and just in people in life that irritates me. The whole, I need to find the reason. I need to know why. I need to know what they were thinking. What was their motivation? And then I need to understand it. I need to feel it. I'm like, okay, no. The fact is, the matter is that some people are just born shitty.
Yeah,
and you just humanity needs to accept that, and we'll be able to move on better.
But do you think that's a critique against? Is that more of a critique against the movie for having that character, or do you just not like those sorts of people?
Both.
Okay.
Because
those characters tend to really drag things down a bit because they overplay that I need to understand him, and it just kind of keeps happening. Mm-hmm. It's like we get the idea behind that almost immediately now. It's like you don't have to keep going back to him. I mean, even though it is a plot point here, but it ends up being kind of beating it over our heads over and over again. Yeah,
that's what I was getting to. It's an old trope, and since this movie was actually really fresh, I didn't need it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. I like the guy though. Like I really like that character. I know you and I have the exact polar opposite reaction for when he kills the guy from fucking Remember the Titans and Armageddon. When he kills that cop and then he puts on Michael's mask, I was so into that. I was like, yes, this guy's so fucking crazy. He wants to be Michael. And I thought he was going to be Michael for a little while, and then that didn't happen.
Nope, it was just him trying to understand the feeling.
Yeah, I was so into him going full-blown
so
crazy town and actually like, I'm going to go fucking kill people now. I was into it. I was ready for it. And then...
Yeah, and I think that's where it kind of unhitched for me in terms of the momentum, where I was really surprised. I was like, oh shoot, are they going to go this way? Are they going to make the tall, ominous Michael character just be done in this movie, and it's now the crazy doctor character? Are they going to really twist it on us and invert this? But they didn't.
And I get why they didn't. I totally understand, because people would have fucking walked out of the movie like that. I'm like, well, this is dumb. I'm done with this fucking thing. And I can't say that they're wrong, but there's something just in me that just loves bold decisions so much that even if they're the worst decision, the fact that you go for it, I'm like, good for you, man. I'm on board. This is awful. Yeah, and I think this is not a good idea, but I'm into it.
And I think that's kind of what made it not work quite as much for me towards the end, is that they started reverting back to the staples of it and kind of, I wouldn't say became afraid of the bold choices, but they stepped back on some of that bold choice. Like,
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think the parts that they rely on the formula nature of it is just like during that one montage where he just starts killing people because he's Michael and that's what he does. He doesn't really go on that big of a killing spree. He mostly just walks down the street and just wanders into whatever house is open and kills whoever happens to be there.
Well, that's the only part that's towards the very end. I mean, for me, towards the very end, it's just like he survives. Like at the end, he's always surviving, and it just kind of wraps it up in that the same way that these films tend to, while it was trying to go for something a little bit more, like the scientist or the doctor taking on the mask, dealing with the time affecting Laurie, and
that's 20 minutes before the end. That's the end of the second act. Like there's a whole other act of them trying to trap him in Laurie's house, and then figuring out that Laurie didn't create a panic room. She created a dungeon to burn him to death. Like none of that is normal trappings of a horror movie. Yeah, the constant survival is, but Laurie's doing the same thing, which is not at all the normal horror movie trappings. The final girl gets injured, and she's barely holding on. Laurie never has that. She is always capable. She gets the shit kicked out of her, and she's still fine.
Yeah.
She is hunting him just as much as he is hunting her. That is not.
I did like that they hinted to that too when she fell off the roof and disappeared.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that was those things are what were keeping me hooked into it.
So that's where I appreciated the whole understanding a killer aspect of this movie.
Yeah.
Because she never wanted to understand it in the same way that like all these other people in the real world and
like
this
Loomis
doctor
and the doctor that took over.
Yeah, like they want to understand it to like make it better. She wanted to understand it because she wanted to know how to fight it.
Yeah.
And that's where like they hint to her becoming him a little bit, but the polar opposite with the like who's prey and who's the predator and stuff, and how they do their little switcheroos near the end of the movie. That's what I really appreciated that.
Oh yeah, just the callback to the original of when she's standing out there and she thinks she's won, and then his face just comes up the doorway and he stabs her. It's the only time he really ever stabs Laurie, and that was such a great moment in the original movie, and it's just fucking perfect. Mm-hmm. And in this one, I wish they didn't have the line. I really wish they didn't have the line, because I think the line just makes it that just one hair too cheesy. If she had done the exact same thing to him that he had done to her, where her face appears and then she attacks, I think it would have been great. But instead her face appears and she has to say Happy Halloween, Michael. And it's like, I get it. That's awesome. It's an audience cheer moment. I can see why it's there, but I think it was the wrong decision.
Yeah, I have the same emotion towards, I can never remember her name, the actress.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
No, the daughter.
Judy Greer.
Judy Greer. I was going to say Leslie Mann. I'm like, no.
Judy Greer, where she does her fake out.
I like the fake out.
We're like, Mom, I can't do it. All that. And then she says, gotcha.
Yeah.
I kind of just went like, no, she didn't need to do that. She just needed to shoot him. Like, I know, again, it was for the audience.
Yeah.
Right.
But-
Well, and thankfully it's not like something like anime where when someone says that, clearly like 400 seconds passes during saying that, so then the enemy can formulate their new strategy and attack and win.
Or at least have like
So-
a whoa thing above their heads.
Yeah.
Right. So thankfully that was the case, and so they didn't tell their next action too early for Michael to escape. Well, I mean, he kind of does, but still. Thankfully, those gotcha moments with the gotcha dialogue didn't give him enough time to win.
Yeah, that's true, and it is definitely just there for the audience to go, yeah, which I get that, and that's definitely like I feel
That's
like
where they leaned into the camp.
yeah, and I like that the movie was willing to do that. I like that more horror movies these days are willing to be campy. Sometimes I feel like they should be more campy, kind of like the new Child's Play was willing to be super campy. But this one, I feel like it did a good line. Like it wanted to be a Halloween for Halloween fans and a horror movie for horror movie fans. And I think it did a very good job walking that line. Where if you'd only seen the first one or only kind of knew the first one, that's all you really needed to know to
Yeah.
watch this. If you'd never even seen it, I don't think you'd have been that lost.
Yeah, because in my relationship with Halloween, I think I've seen the first one.
Right?
I feel like I saw like the second one on television once. All I remember is a nurse being impaled against a wall.
Yeah, that'd be the second one.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
I saw the
think I've
one
seen
with
that one too.
Brandy.
That's 8, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
7 or 8.
And the one with what's his name from Minneapolis? He was in
From
Wicker
Minneapolis.
Park. I don't remember. He was,
That's the same one as the one with Brandy, isn't it?
Is it?
H2O and then Halloween Resurrection are the two last. So those might have been the two different ones.
Because he played Jamie Lee Curtis's son.
Right. But Jamie Lee Curtis dies in Resurrection.
All right.
Either way.
Ooh,
But
plot
even so, there's a
hole.
lot. There's a lot of Michael films I haven't seen.
And there's a lot that you don't need to see. But like the long and the short of it is like this one I think did a really good job. And this is exactly the sort of reboot that the franchise deserved, I think. As opposed to like, say, Friday the 13th, which obviously is my favorite horror movie franchise. We've done an episode on it. Go back and listen. It's excellent. But like that movie, when it finally got rebooted, the reboot was really just kind of like a fucking rinse and repeat of let's just get Jason to kill some more teenagers, I guess. And this one felt like, well, what else can we say with this story? And it's so interesting that it came from somebody like fucking Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, you know, the guys who gave us Your Highness. It's so weird that these guys just got this movie as well as they did, because I think that's really what it came down to, is they understood the source material. And obviously John Carpenter had a big hand in this one too. He's a producer on it. He rewrote a new score for it. Like, he was very involved, so that obviously helps. But I think it's credit where credit's due. The director and the writers, they just did a great job.
Yeah.
It's the
No, all
whole-
the stuff that I cited as surprising me is the stuff that they added to it to give it that balance that just makes this it's hard to say like, oh, if you're a fan of the Halloween everything, check this one out, because this is doing something different, and it feels different, even though it's got like connective tissue to the first movie. It's like, this is an interesting one. I can't like say, oh, it's like all the other ones. This is kind of its own beast, which makes it too bad that it has the same exact name of the movie.
It does. It's one of the things I appreciate is it does the opposite of what people do so much in horror films these days, outside of like the Conjuring universe, because they deal with demons and stuff.
Right.
But in ones that are supposed to be actual people committing atrocities, like so many times you try to make them relatable or give them an excuse
And that
or
was like
some reason, again, to understand why they're doing what they're doing.
And that was like the Rob Zombie ones.
Yeah,
Like, they were just so
it's-
determined to explain Michael.
and
It's like,
it's
just
the-
let him be crazy.
They did it with the remake of Nightmare on Elm as
Yeah.
well. And it's just like, no. It's kind of like getting back to the whole reason that Darth Vader was so scary in the first Star Wars film. You don't need an explanation.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be this massive, imposing thing that you can't fight. You want to try to fight, but in the end, you're probably going to lose, most definitely.
Yeah.
And you need to have that feeling in these movies for them to work.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
though they turn into campy schluck where they're just schluck and there's no like actual horror camp to it.
Right. And I think that's kind of like what the movie does so well is kind of harken back to the original, where that's what Michael was.
Yeah, like the best part is when he's killing the podcasters.
Well, that's what I was going to get into, because like
Yeah.
by harkening back to what the original was, it was able to tap into what's super popular in today's culture, which is true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. Personally, I like Serial, and that was about it. I've tried listening to the other ones. I get what people like about them. They're not for me. And I would say it's pretty clear that they're not for Dana McBride and David Gordon Green either.
Right.
I really got, there's 2 instances when I got off the train of even thinking of listening to true crime podcasts, and the second one I'll cite was when I heard about a girl who does a true crime podcast while putting on her makeup in the mornings, so she's just getting pretty while talking about people being murdered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how more desensitized can we get?
Yeah, and like that's kind of the interesting thing about like them making the podcast about Michael Myers, and I think that's really probably my favorite thing in the movie is because we can talk in circles about the why of it all, but that's not the point. The point was that Michael Myers did something so freaky to 5 people. Was that the count? 5?
Something small like
yeah,
that.
something like 5. And like even the one dude says it. He's like, he killed 5 people. Who cares?
Yeah, in like 30 years ago.
Yeah, like 40 years ago, he killed 5 people. Why are we still talking about this? But that's the point, is that we are still talking about it. We're still making movies about it. Like, he did it in such a freaky and such a groundbreaking way that, of course, true crime podcasts would be going nuts for this. They would be hunting down his mask. I bet there's people hunting down the original knife. Like, there's people just going crazy for this. And I think that's really cool that the movie tapped into both the cultural aspect of us still talking about a movie made 40 years ago, as the best slasher film. Jason's better. But we're talking about it like that, just like they would be making a podcast about it, because it was so shocking and so different. And I think there's this meta nature that David Gordon Green and Dana McBride really tapped into, and I think it was fantastic. Like that, I think that's why I love the movie as much as I do, because the meta sort of camp nature to it, while being a very serious, hard-hitting, violent, well-made slasher film. I think having all that together is just awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing that they tapped on, just casually, I think, I don't know how much it had to do with murders and whatnot, or how much it had to do with people wanting attention so much. I loved it every time someone screamed at Michael, "Say something! Just say something!" You know, because in our culture today, we're not used to people just being stoic. It kind of drives a lot of people nuts when you don't say something back.
And that's I love that one line from the doctor of he can talk, he chooses not to. It's like, fuck, he's creepy.
Really
like, because that is not something they brought up in the original movie, like the whether or not he can talk. It's just like, oh no, he can. He's just not going to.
He doesn't want to.
Good.
He has nothing good to say.
Good Lord, that makes him more freaky.
He speaks with his knives.
He has a lot to say. Sticking with the pointy end. So let's actually move a little bit into the characters, because I want to spend some time talking about each one of the generations, and then we'll move into quotes. But let's work our way up from the bottom. That kind of makes sense. So we'll start with the youngest and get to the oldest. So Laurie's granddaughter. There's a theory rumbling around the internet, and that's kind of where I'm going to start with this thing, that the next movie, Michael will be dead, because how the fuck did he get out of that?
He slithered out of it.
Sure, maybe. I mean, we're watching Stranger Things. It could work.
Yeah. Spoilers.
That actually makes me think of a really cool adventure puzzle game where you are like the Michael Myers and you have to get out of this trap that the heroine put you in.
Yeah.
And then it just deconstructs all the poor ways that they didn't plan for him to escape.
Yeah, why not? But the theory is that the granddaughter will be the murderer in the next one. I don't really see it. I saw it more the first time I saw it, but on the rewatch, I was like really trying to like look for it. And beyond showing her holding the knife at the end and like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque like truck drive away victory, I didn't see it. I don't see her making that snap. Like, she definitely was traumatized. She saw her shitty ass fucking boyfriend's best friend get stabbed to death. She had friends that were murdered. She wasn't there for it.
She's being brutalized by men the whole movie.
Very true.
She's like, let's work our way back. Lastly, by Michael, she's being hunted a little bit, and then before
that, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, actually, he forgets about her.
He does totally. He gets sidetracked.
Yeah.
And then
although I think at the same time, if we had her be the Michael Myers of the next one, she'd have that backstory. She'd have that definition. Oh, that's why she became crazy, which is what we've been praising this movie for ignoring for Michael Myers. Like, what makes him tick? We don't like.
Yeah, but to what Chewie's saying is that it's definitely there.
Yeah, but because she gets the motivation, like nothing. She doesn't have a good interaction with a single male character. I don't believe. You
true.
have Michael,
yeah, you're right.
and then you have the doctor, who she trusts. Well, she does have a good interaction with the
cop
police officer
who gets killed,
but then he's murdered by the doctor. And before that, she's hit on by her supposed friend. And he tries to apologize in the most douchey way, talking about how he's drunk and has a heart-on, and he blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
it means I have no blood in my brain.
Just shut up, man. Dude, shut up.
Stop
and
digging.
Then after that, she is kind of about to be cheated on by her boyfriend. I mean, kissing is bad. I don't know if some people don't consider that full cheating, but it's definitely a lead-up. And he... Okay, then we have a pudding bowl. I'm not really going to go down that rant, but when he takes her phone from her and throws it in the punch, it's like hard and sticky. I'm like, is that a bowl of pudding at a
You just
homecoming?
Can't let this thing go.
It's weird.
It is really weird.
And
who brought the weird bowl pudding?
Her dad is not a good example of a man, really, either.
Also dies.
He dies, but he's just kind of a doofus.
Yeah. The only nice guy in the whole thing is
the cop.
Is the cop, and then the blonde girl's boyfriend isn't a terrible dude, but he also gets killed. Dave also dies.
Oh yeah, Dave also dies.
Yeah. So all the good guys die, and the bad guys, well, mostly die.
Yeah.
Yeah, men are not the great guys in this thing.
No.
But either way, I don't think, kind of like to what John was saying and to what you're saying, even if the story is there, I don't see her being...
Well, that's the only motivation I could come up with, is that it's a reaction towards toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I think the thread is there if they want to go that way. I don't think they will. And it's mostly because of, like what John was saying, we've been praising this movie for not trying to do a backstory on why this guy's crazy, and then we got a whole movie about why the next person's crazy. It just kind of feels counterintuitive.
It does, but if she ends up being the killer, that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, like I said, it works.
I wouldn't have a problem with the movie making us think that's where they were going and then trick me with that being like, oh, I got you, assuming what this movie was going to be, and then like, pull the rug out. I don't mind.
It feels a little Scream 2 to me. But granted, that's what's supposed to happen, and then the fucking leak ruined that. Right? They still say in talks. From the last I looked, but I haven't looked in like a month or so. So, but let's move up a generation. What do we think of Laurie's daughter? Not Leslie Mann. Judy Greer. There it is. If you want to say Leslie Mann.
Different blonde lady.
Different blonde lady who's an excellent actor and doesn't get enough credit.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like to give more time to the granddaughter, they gave Judy Greer a bit of the short shrift. I don't feel like I got into her backstory all that much, and they kind of lay it heavy on that at the end. Like, this is what I've been trained for by Ma, but yeah, they kind of ignore her for a bit.
They do. You don't really get any of like what her life is about.
No,
so it doesn't really pay off either. Which it's like, oh, you've been training for this, but then why have we spent so much time with the granddaughter, when your life was ruined, not the granddaughter's? She's up until the killings, she's been fine, sort of estranged, but
yeah, that's true.
So it's like we missed that relationship or that thing, and I don't know. I like seeing Judy Greer a lot, and we don't see a lot of her, unfortunately.
No, but I don't think that. I think she did absolutely everything she possibly could with what she had. Like, because I agree, the movie kind of ignores her and they kind of leave her behind at points. But to that point, though, at the end of when everything's all said and done, we know her entire story, we know her motivation, and I give more credit to her than I do the filmmakers and the decisions, the editing, because although they might have ignored her, she still sold her entire plot.
She did.
Like, she did a great job with what she had, which wasn't a lot, but like just like
her
even
moment
like
where she says "gotcha," even though it was kind of cheesy,
yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah."
Yeah, it's cheesy, and like it's not my favorite point in the movie, but like I think my favorite point with her character is when she's looking around the fucking armory that Laurie has made, and she sees her gun, and she's like, "Well, fuck,
it's my gun.
It's my gun. I got to do this." And it's just like it's such a cool, no dialogue, no lead up. Like the only lead up is like one flashback shot where you see her firing a gun.
Yeah. the thing I liked, there's a lot of good choices in art department and costumes in this movie. One of my favorites was when she's wearing the Christmas sweater when she goes up to the window and she gets the phone call and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, she's just skipping over Halloween.
Yeah, fuck Halloween.
Yeah, fuck it.
It's got bad memories. So what about Laurie? Jamie Lee Curtis is back, Scream Queen herself.
I mean, she's a good. It's one of the things that I love about just Jamie Lee Curtis. She's willing to let herself age.
Yeah.
And since she's the type of woman to do that in her own life, her coming back to this character it's like perfect.
Yeah. Because
she looks exactly what you think Laurie would end up looking after all this, if she was going to be a survivalist, if she was going to be her own version of Sarah Connor. Like, honestly, I would love to watch a movie between her and Sarah Connor hanging out together.
God, who would win?
I don't know.
They fought.
I had to fight a stoic, angry, silent man. So did I.
Mine was a robot.
That you brought up the Sarah Connor.
Mine was possessed by the devil, maybe.
We're not really sure.
Depending on what movie you're watching.
Depending on what movie you're watching, whether or not there's sequels, and whether or not there's a crazy doctor attached. You know what?
Might be my brother. I don't know.
We're a little fuzzy on that. So we're gonna say you win because you have T2. Sorry.
But it's just her hair. I mean, the only thing that wasn't tactical about her was that her hair wasn't in a ponytail. Otherwise, all of the clothing she chose to wear, just her stance and the choices in her decor and everything, it was just like she was a survivalist, and I love how much that came out of her.
And I didn't realize how much of this was like for her character. I didn't realize how much I wanted to see Laurie kind of get that commando Sarah Connor thing until I saw this movie, and then once you mentioned that here today, I just didn't realize that that's what I was hoping to see. Like, after all these years of these terrorizing forces, just to see the other person break and take on a little bit of the monster themselves and hunt them down. That's cool. That was cool to see.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting, like, if you want to watch this and then H2O, like, they're just such horrible companion pieces to each other, but it's very interesting.
I kind of want to watch.
Like, because
I'll rewatch that.
Well, I'll rewatch H2O any day of the week.
Is that the one where she lops his head off with an axe?
Yes, it is. But like, that's the thing, is like, you just go to like totally different takes on like what this trauma would do to somebody. H2O, it just, whatever. It was a bad Tuesday. And everything else is fine unless my brother comes back. I guess he's going to. I'll just lop his head off and then let's chalk it up to another bad Tuesday.
Feeling bad about it at the same time.
Yeah, because he's her brother and, family. Fuck off. He just killed like everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the time helped with this. And that's kind of what these other sequels tend to do. It's like they're so close to the first one or in such a momentum that it's hard to believe that enough time has passed. It's like, what was it? The sequel to Final Destination, where they find the, what's her name? Allie Larder in the psych ward. And she's like, oh yeah, it's just death. He's evil. He's coming for you. And then like, she wasn't she was acting like she wasn't crazy anymore after she got out, or had those years of PTSD and just not being well from that horrible experience with the plane. It's like here, we kind of get that payoff, and time is the factor. Like, we actually get some honest to God time between the first movie and this one.
Yeah, and it just kind of makes more sense than everyone just being fine. Yeah. Being fine after what she went through does not make sense. Even with years of therapy, like, no.
And I love the depiction of it, because she's not fine, but she's fully cognizant the entire time.
She's not fine. She's definitely not crazy.
Yeah, because like, especially when the podcasters come to her place, the moment they offer her $3,000, and I love the payoff at the end when she hands it to her granddaughter. She doesn't need that money. And when he goes, you are twice, you had 2 failed marriages and your daughter was taken, or what was it? I forgot how he, and then she corrects him, like, I had 2 divorces and custody issues, or
no,
something.
it was
like
it was the line of like, so you lost your daughter. When did you get her back? I never got her back, and you knew that.
Yeah,
it's
like
just
the
like,
entire time.
Fuck you.
She's like one step ahead of them mentally, or not quite one step ahead of them, but she knows how to combat their condescending nature.
She knows exactly what their game is, and she calls them on it immediately. It's great. I love Laurie in this movie. Like, this was exactly, like, it was the movie about Laurie that I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like where I'll keep coming back and like why I love this movie as much as I do, because there are problems with it. It is not a perfect slasher film, and it's definitely not the best, you know, these super late sequels. I still think that's Trainspotting 2, and I know everyone disagrees with me on that one, but that movie's fucking great.
Well, and we brought it up at the very beginning of the episode that it does the sin of, so the quote unquote sin of just taking out the whole history of it minus the first one, which,
yeah,
I mean, it worked here, but I also don't like that trend. It's just, it all kind of adds up together. We can't avoid the past ones at all, even though the timeline's all weird. We can't ignore it either. Like, without her, like, we can't get that hell yeah moment at the end of this without all those movies.
I think you still can. I think that works. It's more so just I'm thinking about this as a dad, and I'm like, all right, son, we're going to watch the Halloween movies. So we got Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 3 has nothing to do with the first two movies. It's just about a bunch of evil kids. And then we're going to move on to Halloween 4. Michael's back. We're going to have a great time. 5, he's still back. 6, 7, 8, you know, we're having a great time. All right, now we're moving into the Rob Zombie ones. Now, these are just remakes. But now Michael is just kind of sad. And because he's sad, he murders people. He really likes masks and angel horses, I think.
I've never seen the Rob Zombie one.
Oh, boy. And then after that, we're just going to do a sequel back to... Remember that one we watched a few months ago? This is a sequel to that one. Forget everything you saw before. Like, this is where I'm going like, all right, fuck you, filmmakers. I need to be able to show my son these movies, and you're making it very difficult.
Right.
I just like to
Who
think
knew
that
you
at
needed
some
a
point...
film history course just to actually catch up or like pay attention to the timeline of all these movies?
Ugh,
You know what?
it's exhausting.
I'm going to write a sequel to America. And I'm going to give a third term to Obama when I write it.
That sounds very nice. With that, I think we've circled the drain, and it is time to talk quotes. Mine is coming from who's the best character of the whole movie that we didn't mention him at all. I never even wrote down the poor kid's name. We see one babysitter in the movie who's babysitting one kid, and that kid is fucking awesome.
Yep.
He's funny. His timing is great. He knows when to get the fuck out of Dodge. And he has the best line in the movie. And that's, his name was Julian. I did write it down. Julian here's Michael Myers upstairs, is convinced he's in the room with them, runs downstairs to get the babysitter's help. And he's like, oh my God, there's somebody upstairs. He's going to kill all of us. And she's like, all right, I'll go take a look. And the babysitter, of course, has been a fucking babysitter in a Halloween movie. So her boyfriend's over to bang her at some point. And he just looks right at the boyfriend and goes, send Dave first. Oh, I like this kid. He likes the babysitter, doesn't want the babysitter to die. And she seemed really cool. She's the only one that was like, oh.
They had a good rapport.
They did. It was very...
Yeah, it was...
She was the only one that was kind of sad when she got killed.
My favorite quote, I didn't write it down. I know you hate that.
I do. I really do.
But it's when the cop meets up with the doctor guy.
Yep.
And the doctor goes, oh, you're the one that stopped the previous doctor from killing Myers. Because I just like the regret on the cop's face of, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, probably should have killed him.
Yeah, should have let him kill him.
That podcaster wouldn't have had his entire skull crushed into a fucking bathroom stall had I not done this.
He had it coming.
Yeah, fuck
the
that
mechanics
guy.
didn't.
Yeah, the mechanics just seemed like good dudes.
They were just doing their jobs.
That fucking true crime podcaster, though. Get him, Michael!
No one's gonna miss him! Trust me!
No one's gonna miss him! There's plenty of him out there.
Oh.
It's kind of a dig at ourselves there.
But we're not
I feel
gonna
eternally
go to any serial killers with our movie podcast and go, talk to me!
Say something!
Although, actually, I think that's a really great idea. We should do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Go just to the psych
Movies
ward
with
and go
serial
like,
killers? I'm
talk
sure
to
there's
me about movies.
Or just do it to like any filmmaker. Like, just like up to Quentin Tarantino. Say something! I've been talking the whole time. Please go away from me.
Interrupt his like 3-hour podcast that he just did recently.
We're doing
talk to
something
me. He's like,
better.
I am.
Oh boy. John, favorite quote?
Yeah, so it's from the good doctor here, Dr. Sartain, I think. I'm trying to look it up.
That sounds right, yeah, Sartain.
Yeah, he kind of sums up the relationship between Laurie and Michael Myers. I would suspect the notion of being a predator or the fear of becoming prey keeps the both of them alive. And I thought that was a good line.
Yeah.
And kind of a neat little indicator, now that I've seen it, going back and kind of thinking through it, just a little bit of a heads up that we're going to get some power dynamics shifting later on in the movie. I thought it was a nice touch.
It's kind of like a Batman and Joker call out. Sort of like, they need each other.
Oh, yin to my yang.
Yeah. Review system for Halloween is going to be stab wounds. How many times would you stab this movie?
Wait, are the stabs good or are the stabs bad?
That is open to the reviewer.
I would
All right.
say this is a good stab to an inner thigh.
Oh, you're going for location.
Mhm.
Are you going for the artery or not the artery?
You're gonna nick it.
You're going to nick the artery.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause it's definitely fatal. Like, if you don't get that bandaged up, it's gonna be fatal. And that is a good way to kill somebody. And they're not really looking at it. They're thinking you're gonna go for their chest or their face or something. But a good little whack to the inner thigh is just as murdery.
That's a very solid review, I think. Mine's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to kind of bounce off of yours a little bit. Mine's going to be 3 stabs, but right to the face. 3 face stabs.
Oh,
and I'm going with
3
that.
face stabs.
The 3 is to be reminiscent of the 3 generations of Laurie, her daughter, and her granddaughter. And I do face stabs because the movie was kind of shocking and refreshing, like a splash of water to the face.
Ooh.
But these are stabs, so they're stabs to the face. It's a refreshing stab to the face 3 times. Wonderful review system.
Perfect.
John, good luck.
All right, I'm going to take a different tack, and it's 4 stabs off screen with splooshy sounds.
Sploosh.
Sploosh. For Judy Greer, I hope?
Yeah. Sploosh.
Whew. Did you have anything else to add for that? Or is that just good enough?
Oh, no, that was good enough.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to move into plugs. First plug we have coming up. Be sure to listen to our other shows, which include, but are not limited to, except that they are, Venture Brothers, Samwise, Demon Days, and Damage Boost. All of them available at the ATH Network or athpod.com.
Mm-hmm.
Chewie, anything to plug? You got a show coming out soon-ish? Do you know when your show starts? I know when you start going back to work.
Usually starts airing in September.
So be sure to check out Superstore in September.
5th season of Superstore coming at you soon.
Woo! And then I plug all
Nice.
the stuff for the company that I work for that I've been told I'm not allowed to say. So be sure to check that out. John, anything to plug?
No, not. You've mentioned pretty much everything. I will say you were on the Damage Boost podcast recently, so that was interesting.
I was.
Yeah.
That was a really fun conversation. I'm glad that I did that. He has 2 more episodes he wants to have me on for. I think 2. It might have been 1. But either way, I really look forward to doing that. If you've not listened to Damage Boots yet, Brock does a great job. He's a really good host. He's got a lot of fun things to say and really good guests. Sooner or later, let's convince Brock to fly out here, just like Matt, and be on the show live. But,
And if it works out, we're not going to let him leave.
Well, he's got kids. I'd feel really bad doing that.
Oh,
to his
shoot.
kids.
Yeah, that's
John,
a big
you're
deal.
the one with a spare room.
That's true. You do have the spare room, so you're going to be putting up both Brock and Matt and all of Brock's family. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll all share the room.
Yeah.
It'll be a Saw situation where you have to solve the puzzle.
Oh, God. Why are you killing them?
Is Karina going to be the jigsaw master guy?
Yeah, she is.
Of
it was her
course
idea.
she would be.
She looked good in that mask.
She would. And her laugh would be horrifying from
It
behind
would
that
be.
mask. Oh, my God.
That gives me an idea. I need to get her to record something like that.
Yeah. Oh, we also need a new Later Losers from her.
Yeah.
Because I stopped using it.
That's what she's going to say
Oh.
when someone loses at one of her mazes.
Later Loser. Oh, God. I'm into this. That's really everything we have, though. So I think we should say goodbye because it's late and we're old and we want to go to bed.
Oh, God, yes.
I'm tired.
We have so much laundry on our bed right now.
Oh, God. Why'd you have to depress me at the end of the episode? That's just not fair. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to stop recording now. Bye.
Bye.